In this week's drive, we take a good look at the new Big Mac, exercise the Gentleman's Express, watch Rossi make a rare mistake, and get back to nature. All this and more in this week's Drive. McLaren has revealed the new MP418. It has a shorter, lower nose, a more tightly packaged rear, and a dorsal fin shape to the engine cover. And the new Mercedes engine sits lower in the car to drop the centre of gravity.
General design objectives are always the same, to basically make the car quicker, which is all the fundamentals of improving aerodynamic efficiency, reducing the centre of gravity height, improving the handling of the car, and hence the cornering performance.
Yes, but is it faster?
I think it's a big step forward from where we were. A lot of effort and a lot of time has gone into the 18, spread over a longer period of time. So I think we've ended up with a structurally superior car, much more tightly packaged, much more weight efficient, and we are expecting quite a significant improvement in lap time because of all that.
At this time, the car just about to run, it's always slightly nervous, I suppose. On paper, in terms of our wind tunnel figures, our simulation on the cars overall, then the performance improvement looks a reasonable step. But of course, simulation is exactly that. It's a simulation and therefore may not be 100% accurate. So it's that tentativeness at the moment to see if our simulations are correct or whether there's some hidden nasties waiting to bite us that we have to try and understand. 2003 car is evolutionary in some respects, but in other respects it's quite different. We've tried to package the car very tightly, so it's quite a lot smaller than the MP417. Really pushed quite hard to come up with an aerodynamically efficient package, which also allows a low centre of gravity, so trying to get the aerodynamics and the mechanical side of the car to work in harmony.
It certainly looks different, but how different is it really?
Well, there are some differences to the car which will slowly come out. Some of them are visually fairly obvious, some are much more subtle and really only under the skin. But of course other teams have a way of winkling out these details one way or the other and finding out about them, so I'm sure over the coming months some of those details will become knowledge at least to other teams, if not public knowledge.
Why replace the older car if it's still winning?
We're pleased that last year's car has been improved and is more competitive and was able to be on the front row in Austria. But of course we aim to be in pole position, and that's why we're bringing out a new car, which is a step forward, the 18X. And beyond that, we have an 18A, which is a further step forward in improvement.
So now Williams, Ferrari and McLaren all have new machines, all smaller, lower and more curvaceous. It seems the best Formula One season in years just got better. The world's most established exotic one-make series is the Porsche Super Cup, a fully fledged championship that's run as a support race at 10 European Grand Prix, plus the US race at Indianapolis. 24 regular competitors and a couple of guest drivers will take to the track in identical race-prepared Porsche 911 GT3s on controlled tyres, with backup teams of skilled factory-trained technicians. The 2003 season started at Imola, a circuit which was unfamiliar to most of the drivers. One of the guest drivers at the opening round, who are usually suitably qualified and trained celebrities, was ex-Formula One driver Ivan Capelli. Despite his vast experience, it's been more than 10 years since he has raced here.
The first time on this circuit, it's harder to believe, but the last race that I did here was in 1992 with the Ferrari Formula One, and then because I raced a lot outside Italy, in Germany and in other championship, I didn't have the chance actually to race here in Imola. So I have to learn the car, learn the circuit, but I think that at the end it was really exciting. The car is actually reacting very, very well. So I think that for tomorrow everything is really promising.
A regular driver this year is Patrick Huisman, who survived this potentially disastrous close call with the wall in practice.
Well, it's it's always difficult. I mean, I won 4 championships, but they weren't like easy walkovers, and there might be a few cars less this year, but still the top 10 will always be competitive. Look at the names, there are some very good drivers in it, and we have to see how it goes this weekend. And you won't win a championship in the first race, so it's just about scoring points every race, and then at the end of the season we'll see where we are.
The race would be over 13 laps of the fast track. Germany's Frank Stippler kicked off his first full Super Cup season at Imola with pole position on a circuit that is totally unfamiliar to him. The runner-up in the German Carrera Cup Series lapped the Imola Grand Prix track in 1 minute 57 seconds.
I had quite a few good laps. Thanks to the team, I'm a little bit surprised that it was possible because I'm the first time in Imola, but it's all right.
Stippler's teammate, Pierre Kafer, also new to Super Cup and Imola, shared the front row. Austria's Walter Lechner Jr. was third fastest. He and his team have no experience with a 911 GT3. Italian Luca Riccatelli was fourth fastest. His experience is limited to just one race. Last year, he drove one of the guest cars at Imola and won. The fastest of the Super Cup regular drivers was Alessandro Zampedri in fifth, ahead of his teammate Patrick Huisman from the Netherlands. Huisman returns to the Super Cup after competing in the German Touring Car Series for the last 2 years. Into the chicane, Stippler squandered a brilliant start by running wide, handing the lead to his teammate. He regained the track, but on the same lap he crashed into Zampedri and retired. Kafer is contesting his first full season in the world's fastest one-make cup, after making only one guest appearance at the Nürburgring last year. On the fourth lap, Riccatelli overtook Lechner and moved up to third, and later going through to second. Huisman put in his usual spirited performance, blasting his way up to third from seventh on the grid. Lechner was to finish his first ever Super Cup race fifth, behind Italian journalist and test driver Luigi Moccia, who piloted the VIP Carrera as a guest of Porsche AG. Right along with Huisman as he charges up the field. Watch that pass again from the outside. Ivan Capelli started 11th and would end up 7th, 13.5 seconds off the winner's pace. Lechner had a race-long battle with Moccia. Zampedri's damaged car is pushed away as he explains the shunt. Kafer later said he'd had too much wheel spin at the start and nearly crashed on some spilt coolant, but came home 1.2 seconds ahead. Capelli had 98 starts and 64 retirements during his 9 years in Formula One and scored 31 points. Although just 26 years old, Pierre has 10 years' experience in various German single-seater classes. Having gone well in practice, the race win capped off a perfect beginning to the season.
Here in Imola, it's a really nice track, and I like this track. And for me, it was really hard to race because local matador Luca Riccatelli was behind me, and this was a really hard race, and it was fantastic to come in the victory.
Huisman was well pleased with his return to Super Cup racing too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic result in this competitive field. To come from 7th to 3rd is, I think, very good. Basically, it all happened in the first lap. I had a very good start. A few guys in front didn't have it. Afterwards, I can tell you, we had a pretty aggressive setup. a little bit too aggressive, so I had to do it in the first few laps, and the tires went a little bit earlier than I expected. At the end, it got pretty close with the guys behind me, but they couldn't attack anymore. I couldn't go any faster, and extremely happy with third position for the first race.
Stippler has been racing Porsche cars for 7 years, but made a first-lap mistake.
Well, in the chicane before, I thought the tires had the right temperature, but in the next braking zone it wasn't the case, and so I went off with the cold tires.
Watch again as he throws away a great lead. Close racing is virtually a given with tightly controlled one-make series like Super Cup. It's that man Rossi again. Valentino broke his own record qualifying time to take the provisional pole position for the French round of the World MotoGP Championship. Yet the all-conquering Italian spent most of the latter part of the week telling anyone who would listen how much he disliked the world-famous Le Mans circuit. However, considering that he won here last year and has pretty much dominated the MotoGP season so far, it came as no surprise when he broke his own record time to head the order. Only Brazilian Alex Barros on a Yamaha went quicker than Rossi at any time in early practice, taking the top spot with 7 minutes to go, but suffering a slide into the gravel while trying for an even better time 2 minutes later. With just 5 minutes left, the irrepressible Italian regained the top spot while the Brazilian was able to return to the fray to clock the second fastest lap time, but still nearly 0.8 of a second slower than Rossi. Barros has had a rough season after moving from Honda to Yamaha, and the early signs were that France wasn't going to treat him any better. Loris Capirossi continued his fine form in qualifying on the Ducati, taking third place with a time just 0.03 of a second behind the Brazilian, despite having been in hospital with a stomach illness. Marco Melandri, the reigning 250cc world champion, worried onlookers when he crashed near the end of the session. He's still recovering from leg injuries suffered earlier this season, but he completed the provisional front row by taking fourth place, 0.15 of a second behind the Ducati. On a day of tumbles and comebacks, Max Biaggi also crashed out of the morning session on his Honda. However, he also recovered and posted a time on his spare bike, missing out on a front row position by just 0.081 of a second. In the 250cc class, Manuel Poggiali of San Marino took the provisional pole on his Aprilia with a time that would have put him onto the MotoGP grid. The former 125 world champion is in his first year in the 250 class and recently turned 20. An hour later, his fellow San Marinese, Andrea Dovizioso, capped a great day for the tiny republic as he took provisional pole for the 125cc race. But riders were in for a rude shock the next day. Incessant rain led to surface water, which created mayhem at the Le Mans track. It was no fun for the men trying to improve their times in final qualifying. Everyone struggled, including world champ Rossi. Rossi managed to stay upright, just, but the Italian was never going to get anywhere near the time he set in Friday's opening session on a dry track, and he was 16 seconds slower in the wet. Having grabbed a slender second place in the dry, Barros was a further 2 seconds slower in the rain, but his place on the grid wasn't under any threat. However, all the teams used the session to try out wet weather tyres and softer settings in case race day was wet too. The new Ducati team have precious little wet weather data, so Capirossi's practice was a voyage of discovery in more ways than one. With huge power on tap, grip and milder power deliveries were the holy grails for all the riders. Rossi's American 21-year-old teammate Nicky Hayden wasn't able to match his illustrious partner and road tested his leathers in the mud. Jeremy McWilliams was the fastest man of the day on the Proton 2-stroke 500cc machine, proving that the British do have more rain racing experience. But then he took an early bath too. In the 250cc class, the nervous two-strokes were similarly compromised. Manuel Poggiali's Friday time would give him his maiden pole, ahead of Franco Bettini and Randy Deponay. Poggiali scored his first ever Grand Prix win here at Le Mans on a 1:25 in 2000. Although lap times wouldn't improve, technicians were keen to make adjustments that would make the peaky engines more tractable and more rideable. The session wasn't totally devoid of any significance, as technicians watched Spaniard Tony Elias learn exactly how hard he could push his machine in the rain. He was close to dragging his knee, until the bike seemed to think that it could do better without him, and he went diving too. The washout meant a first pole position in the fledgling career of Andrea Dovizioso in the 125s. Like the others, he was keen to get some experience of where the water lay on the tricky French track. He kept up the pressure and was lucky to get away with this off-track excursion. But he found the limits just a few minutes later. Closely followed by Australian Casey Stoner, making sure that the mechanics would have a late night. Although the MotoGP race started dry, the rain returned to cause chaos later. Capirossi took a brief lead but drifted back with a repeat of his stomach ailment, as Rossi went to the front and started to pull away. An early crasher was Carlos Checa as he road tested his leathers and headed off for an early shower before the rain even started to fall. Troy Bayliss completed a dreadful day for Ducati, rounding out the team's worst showing since their debut in the Premier class. But the next round is in Italy. But the rain came, and as leader, Rossi signalled for a halt to change tyres. The race was restarted, but this time Rossi found himself involved in a fierce dogfight with Sete Gibernau, winner of the second round in South Africa, and with Barros a spectator in a close third place. The track was both wet and dry, with blinding sunshine and spray making conditions especially difficult. Rossi grabbed a late lead but ran wide, and Sete slipped through on the very last turn. That was all the Spaniard needed to snatch his second win of the year by less than 0.2 of a second, with Alex Barros close behind in third, overcoming his personal points drought.
The end of the story of the race is that it was a very nice race. We had a real good battle with Alex and with Valentino at the end. I won the race, but any of us could have won this race in a very difficult condition, and I want to congratulate both Valentino and Alex because three of us stayed on the bike in a very difficult situation, and we had very difficult conditions, but we all stayed on the bike and made it very nice. So congratulations to them, and also to my team. Without my team, they make my things easy because the bike was working very good, and I just have to thank my team for the work they're doing. Thank you.
After 4 rounds, Rossi has a clear lead over his arch-rival Biaggi, who looks in danger of slipping behind Gibernau. All three are on Hondas. 250cc world title leader Poggiali blew his chances of improving his lead by taking out Sebastian Porto in the early stages, both riders later blaming each other. Randy Deponay passed hole-shotter Tony Elias on lap 4 and set some fast laps, but Elias got by on lap 16 and pulled away for his second Grand Prix win in a row. The wins put him hard up behind the non-scoring Poggiali and narrowly ahead of Deponay, who's tied with Rolfo, third this time out. 125 action came with last lap drama provided by Lucio Cecchinello, Andrea Dovizioso and Alex De Angelis, who speared off to the beach. Dani Pedrosa built a handy 2.3 second lead over Cecchinello, who held on to second by less than a tenth. Pedrosa completed a Spanish clean sweep of the top step in all 3 classes. After his second win of the year, he leads the championship from veteran Cecchinello, who is twice the age of the 17-year-old. To the slower but no less skilled world of outdoor trials now, and Kaifersfelden for round 3 of the world title. Heavy rain before the event made conditions difficult, as Mark Friescher found out. The Spaniard challenged for the lead on day 1 before taking second place, but fell away badly on day 2, ending up 5th. Compatriot Adam Raga showed more consistency, finishing 3rd and 4th over the 2 days. However, it was a disappointing result for the reigning indoor world champion as he led after the first lap of the circuit on the second day. Taking the honours on day 2 was Briton Graham Jarvis, the Sherco rider recording his first victory of the season. He was helped by some much-needed sunshine after rain at the start of the competition. Jarvis beat Dougie Lampkin by 1 point. Dougie had his fair share of hardship and the unforgiving course. On day 1, he could manage only 4th. Lampkin looked set for victory on the second day, but he picked up 5 penalties to hand Jarvis the lead. However, the overall win went to Takehisa Fujinami. The Japanese rider earned his second victory of the series with a focused ride. A great first lap saw him incur only 7 penalty points, setting him up for a well-deserved triumph. The 23-year-old couldn't repeat this form the following day, but did enough to finish 3rd on day 2. Fujinami's win lifts him to 2nd in the title, 7 points behind Lampkin. The series moves to the 4th round at Motegi in Japan, where Fujinami will be a favourite to win at home. Springtime in England means many things, and just one is reflected in the sound of lawnmower engines heard across the land. But while they're normally just used for cutting the grass, a hardcore of enthusiasts refer to their specially tuned machines as weapons of grass destruction. To one section of the motor racing community, spring means it's time to get out the lawnmower and go racing. Recently, some of this special brand of nutcase gathered near Winchester in southern England for the first of 10 legs of the British Lawnmower Racing Championship. Believe it or not, the sport, if that's what it is, started 30 years ago in where else but a pub. Another English tradition, rain, had made the going slow and practice runs on the track turned the grass to mud. You could throw a blanket over the whole field for the first few laps until number 89 Graham Harvey took the lead, chased by Bob Wilson in 59 and defending champion Mike Cresswell in number 58. Various famous people who have taken part in mower racing in the past include motor racing legends Sir Stirling Moss, Le Mans driver Derek Bell, and even the late Oliver Reed. As the competitors further churned up the track, power slides and lurches across the ruts put heavy stresses on men and machine, and the defending champion, Mike Cresswell, reclaimed the lead. The machines may seem absurd, but out on the half-kilometre track, no quarter was asked or given. Eventually, the Chief Marshal indicated to the weary racers that they were on their final lap. Cresswell was leading until the last seconds of the race, when mud packed his roller box and he slowed within sight of the line. Harvey roared past to win the first leg of the British Lawnmower Championship, with the unlucky Cresswell 2nd and Wilson 3rd. Sod's law, perhaps?
It was, as we came to the last bend, Mike here, he blocked up with mud, so I was able to just slip through on the inside and take it.
So, whether your machine's a mower or a Big Mac, and whether you race on the track, the grass or both, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.